So welcome to the Global Discussions with creatives, leaders and thinkers. Today, delighted to be joined by Ariel Levin. Ariel, you're very welcome to the podcast. I want to start by asking you to explain a little bit about who you are, your journey, what you focused on for our international audience. So over to you, Ariel.
Awesome. Thank you so much for inviting me. So my name is Ariel Levin. I'm 46 years old. I'm married. I have two small children. I live in Israel, in a small town called Pardes Chana Karakur, for those who might know it. What I do today is I run an agency with about 8 employees that does SDR work. SDR means sales development representative, which essentially is booking meetings for B2B clients. I started my professional journey around 2005, 2006 in New Zealand. 2005, I went to Auckland University of Technology. I was living in New Zealand, and I studied graduate diploma in advertising creativity. From there, my landlord at the time pushed me to go into real estate. So that's what I did. And this is where I did all the personal branding, because that was the game then. And I started doing social media. And I became an independent person. So I wasn't employed anymore. So that was in 2006. I spent 5 years selling real estate in New Zealand. Awesome time, lots of personal development, learning lots of things, meeting amazing people, and was absolutely amazing. But I didn't do any marketing or advertising, which is what I learned. 2011, went back to Israel. And decided to stay. 2012, opened my business. I was doing social media, and my first thing that about a month after I came to Israel or so, I started LinkedIn and started to do LinkedIn more professionally, more and more around 2014, 2015. That was my main thing. And about 2 years ago, somebody approached me and said, "Hey, I'm not interested in leads. I'm interested in meetings." So I found the right person to help me book meetings and decided that's what we're going to do, and move all my clients to do that. So this is what we do. We book meetings for our clients. And recently, ChatGPT came on board. So I'm a bit of a marketing enthusiast, started doing that, started testing, and I bumped into a collection of prompts. For those who don't know, prompts are the instructions that you give ChatGPT to create good content for you. And I posted these. I posted about 50 of those that I thought was the most relevant. Eventually, I've received over 5 million views on that. And this is the reason I'm here. We've also connected, me and you, Simon. And lots of opportunities, lots of business opportunities, because my profile says that I'm an SDR as a service. People approach me, so we've got new clients from the US, and it was a huge mindset shift, because all of a sudden I was looking at the likes of Justin Welsh and others, and now I'm collaborating with them, not with Justin Welsh yet, but with Ruben Hassid and with Samuel, Sam, which for the life of me, I cannot pronounce his last name, but it starts with SZ. So that's what I do now. We've also set up the AI Chat Slack community, which is a free community. We'll probably have a link to that in the show notes. So, and that's what we do. And we're actually doing a live cohort very soon. It's going to be a paid one. We're going to have a weekly Q&A, and we are in about 3 days, I think we'll launch a crash course for ChatGPT. So my biggest challenge at the moment, I would say, is balancing the agency work that I do and I have to do and I enjoy doing, and it's always a challenge, but a very satisfying one, and deep diving into ChatGPT, which is and AI in general, which is the future. So tomorrow I'm going to a conference hosted by Microsoft about AI, and on Thursday I'm going to another one On Wednesday, I'm talking about ChatGPT. At the end of the month, I'm hosting a course about ChatGPT and Midjourney for business owners. So it's a bit of a juggle at the moment. This is why I'm working weekends as well, but I enjoy every moment. So that's me in a nutshell.
Well, thank you so much indeed for sharing that, Ariel, because from, I suppose, property, real estate, through to creating leads for businesses, now to this business that you have now, in terms of your agency, Soul Marketing, where you're setting up meetings for a lot of organizations of various shapes and sizes, everything from life sciences companies to more sort of direct business to business type organizations. But yet you've kind of carved a niche out in this AI chat GPT world. You're putting out some great work, particularly you mentioned prompts, which you understand, I understand to some degree, but maybe for our international audience who are new to this AI world, can you just maybe unpack a little bit why the prompts are so important to AI? So people may or may not be understanding at this moment in time how you have to sort of instruct the AI to act in a certain way or to be a certain type of response. So could you maybe just share a little bit about the importance of prompts, because you put out some great guides around this?
Okay, so AI knows a lot of things, but unlike a person can, if I ask you for something, Simon, you'd say, well, can you be a little bit more particular? What color, what shape, what format do you want it from? And it's going to unpack and it's going to revel, and then you'll be able to know what I'm after. ChatGPT or AI in general, if you just give it an example, write a cover letter for me, it's going to write a cover letter, but it's going to do something very, very basic and it's not going to match what I'm after. So I need to give it context. I need to tell it how I want it to act, whether I want it to act as a career coach or a job applicant. I need to give it some background about myself, for example, if I'm taking the cover letter, about the company I'm applying for, the tone. So I need to paint all that picture. So another word would be, it's like writing a creative brief, for example. If most of the prompts that I'm doing are around marketing collateral, whether it's ads or letters or resources, ebooks, these type of things. So I need to give it a creative brief. For somebody else, the people who are using ChatGPT for coding, so they would have to give their own instructions over there. Others use it to create Excel and Google Sheet formulas. So you need to be as specific as possible. But many times what we find also is if your prompts are not as accurate, you can still work through it, because it's a chat, it's still a chat. So you can say, ChatGPT, you can say to ChatGPT, create this and that for me, and it will spit out something. And then you can say, make it more humorous, keep it under 2,000 characters if you get specific limitations. So it knows what it did before, and it's going to spit out something better and better and better. So it's either you do a master prompt or a mega prompt, which is something this big, which is 4 or 5 paragraphs, or you can start with something and chat with GPT until it creates something that you enjoy. But it's such an amazing tool,
Agreed. Yeah. And it's even like, I suppose if you go right back to learning it originally, people were figuring out that if you just wrote the word continue, it would actually write more on the same subject. Yeah. And little things like, if you can act in the style as a professional consultant and write this, it gives you a very different response than just saying, write this. So it is that conversational aspect. Even though we're behind the scenes, it's servers and code and computing, but it is a conversation where you can continue the conversation, you can improve on the conversation, and you can ask it to do various things. And it is a fantastic tool. Now, you mentioned a moment ago, because when you put out a post, which I saw, it's probably, I don't know, 3-4 weeks ago or more.
Exactly. Yeah.
But you passed recently 5 million views on that,
Yes.
and that was something that you put together, which was the 50 awesome ChatGPT prompts. Did it take you by surprise how quickly that got picked up? Because it went huge very quickly, in my view.
Yeah, it did. It did take me by surprise. When we reached 700,000, which was like hours before that, after that, so I went out and I celebrated with a glass of wine with my wife, and then I went to bed, and it surpassed 1 million views, and it just traveled around the world. So it was quite amazing. I had to hire a VA to answer all the comments. Yeah, and there was some. I mean, it took me by surprise in many respects, because I didn't brand it with my name, with my company, with anything like that. So a lot of people have reshared it. So I would estimate it probably received maybe double that amount of views, because many pages shared it because it wasn't branded or anything. I wasn't ready for that kind of exposure. I mean, I was happy until a few weeks ago with a few thousand views. Anything above 10,000 would be considered amazing. Now the post that I've posted yesterday, which was actually a collection of something that I found on Twitter, is nearing 50,000 views. So it recalibrates my mind. But I would do many different things, but I was still able to generate a LinkedIn group of more than 1,000 members, a mailing list of more than 10,000 members. But had I known, I would structure things completely differently. Yeah.
That's the nature of something that goes viral quickly. It just sort of takes off, has a life of its own.
Yeah.
But you also have written a 36-page sort of guide on creating B2B campaigns using ChatGPT, which I suppose links back to the agency work that you do in terms of creating those B2B meetings, or prior to that, the B2B type leads, the business to business meetings. So what did you sort of cover in that? Because obviously using it to do relatively simple things or to create prompts is one thing, but when you want to focus on a topic and say, look, this is how you can use AI to help with B2B campaign creation, that was probably a little bit more specialist.
Yeah, so this is where I took my own knowledge and my own thinking and put it together, and it was a more exciting process because I could actually test it and see how well it's going to do. So what I did is I thought, what am I trying to do here? I'm trying to raise awareness. So how do you raise awareness on LinkedIn? You can do posts, or you can comment on people's posts, or you can do advertise. I wanted to then start conversations, so I needed to create some sort of a resource. So I've asked it to create a resource for me, and then to offer that resource. So I needed a message for LinkedIn and for email. So I've asked for a message. I've asked for email messages, follow-up messages, and for comments. So these are all the things that I basically had the vision in my mind of a regular campaign that we would do, and I've asked it to create all the information, all the text for it. It's not perfect, and if you want to do it perfectly, you need to train ChatGPT. So that means taking posts or information from somebody that writes on that subject of cold outreach, for example, Josh Brown, and ask and give ChatGPT to read it and ask it to create the next content using that sort of tone. And there's always room for improvement. But when you want to create something quickly, and maybe you need to present it to someone, you need to brainstorm it, instead of just typing for hours, you can create it in minutes. If you are to download my guide, use the prompts, play with it a little bit, then within 10 minutes, 20 minutes, you'll have a pretty decent starting point. And we need to understand and remember that we are still using, I guess, V1. We're still on dial-up internet to take from the internet world. The next versions are going to be absolutely amazing. But the thing I fear is the age of the AI buyer. So AI buyers, it's not going to be now. We're all selling to human beings, but what happens when there's going to be an AI buyer? How are you going to optimize to the AI buyer? What do you have to do? So this is where there's no need for SDRs, where there's no need for agency. There's just robots talking to robots.
Yeah, you raised some good points, and I want to come back to those in a second. But I just want to let our audience know that they also need to check out the 50 awesome ChatGPT prompts. That's really definitely worth reading. And I mentioned also the B2B campaign one, but you also have another document that you put out there, which was about SEO. So I'd encourage people to look at that too. But just coming back to the point that you made there a moment ago, we've seen, haven't we, huge changes in the impact that AI is having, particularly around things like ChatGPT. And you mentioned at the start that you're going to be speaking at Microsoft, I think, in the coming days.
Attending, not speaking.
Sorry, attending the Microsoft conference in the coming days. And yet we've seen Microsoft investing heavily in how AI impacts things like Bing, their search engine. At the time of recording, Google are heavily invested in releasing a version of Google AI. So there's huge changes to the landscape. So what impact do you think it's going to have on things like the human-to-human interaction? Because I kind of have this feeling, Ariel, that if we think content is busy now, it's about to get a lot busier faster.
Exactly.
So what do you think?
Well, there's many scenarios that might happen. In terms of human, I mean, the idyllic scenario is that we're going to have more time for human-to-human interaction. We're going to be more accurate. We'll spend less time on creation and more time on consuming. We'll be able to share more things. For what I see right now, there's more groups, there's more chat about it. But that's the idyllic sort of scenario. The non-idyllic scenario can put people out of the equation, which also means that it might generate more interactions. But that's something that I didn't give that much thought to. I mean, it's the thought that I honestly gave was to whether we're going to be replaced by AI or not. So this is what I think. And what people are saying is that there are some jobs that are not going to be replaced, where the human interaction is needed, etc. But with the speed of the way things are moving at the moment, I'm not sure. We might be able to produce cheap robots who can take care of the elderly and do physiotherapy work and all sorts of things. My biggest hope around AI is that it will bring a leap in our understanding and solutions to the global climate crisis. That's my biggest hope. Yeah, which is a bit of a diversion from what you asked me, but I hope that's okay.
Yeah, sure. No, that makes a lot of sense. And it's interesting because I was listening to a conversation recently, which was between I suppose, what would you call him, the father of modern linguistics, Noam Chomsky, and he was talking to Gary Marcus. I don't know if you saw that interview, but talking about AI, Noam's view is that it is a phenomenal tool, but it's a bit like a snowplow. It's great to have because it clears the snow. It does a certain function. But he was making the argument that it's not actually contributing to science or discoveries because it's only going back on what it knows.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. And then Gary Marcus was making some views about, all the things that are happening with AI. And you mentioned Midjourney earlier. And my question is this. people are using ChatGPT to create things which they're then taking into other AI platforms such as Midjourney to turn those into, art or, images or characters or whatever. And that AI to AI conversation seems to be linking up again extremely quickly. Have you been looking at that area? Are you using that from where ChatGPT goes to next into another AI type platform or tool?
How do you mean?
Well, so for example, people are asking ChatGPT to create the code to be able to then put that code into software tools to develop software or to develop a program. People are asking ChatGPT to design images and to give it the output that they can then drop straight into Midjourney, which will then render those images, for want of a better word, which they can then export and use as original creative art, even though there's some gray area around copywriting and where does that conversation end? I'm not sure. But it's that using one tool to talk to another AI tool, which is then creating this other dimension of outputs, as opposed to just using ChatGPT, which is giving you the outputs that you're asking it to do via prompts or whatever, or conversational, dialogue with an AI interface. But when that AI interface starts to speak to, in inverted commas, another AI interface, it seems to be able to create these quite interesting new areas.
So there's a couple of things that I did. One of them is a tool that I'm using. It's called Byword. It's an article generation tool, and what it does, it sends a message. It's essentially writes the article, and at the same time it goes to an image generation engine and creates an image for you, so without you having to interfere or give it any prompts. The other thing I did advise people to do is to, just as a conversation starter, to take people's, when they do SDR work, to create a conversation starter by taking people's professional headline on LinkedIn and dropping it into Midjourney and saying, hey, this is what happened when I put your professional headline into Midjourney. This is the image that came up. Can you relate? Or something like that. So, but I think there is going to be a lot of that going on. And one of the prompts that I've actually shared is a Midjourney prompt generator. But I don't think ChatGPT is that sharp of a prompt generator. There's actually a much better prompt generator for Midjourney actually at the moment. But there is going to be very soon an age whereby AI is going to talk to AI, and everything is going to be created together. For example, including voice messages in our own voices. For example, if I want to use LinkedIn to send voice messages that are personalized, I'll be able to do that, and probably other things. But that's something that I definitely need to explore more, Simon.
It's fascinating, particularly for your business, because you mentioned voice AI there, for example, and if there's enough data on somebody's particular voice pattern, it's getting quite easy now for the machines to be able to recreate anything they want you to say using your voice.
Apparently 3 seconds of hearing your voice is all that they need to be trained on.
And also the for people who have a podcast or speak publicly or whatever, that voice is out there. So it's becoming easier and easier for that voice AI to be created. And then we've already seen a world of deep fakes and the possibilities of video and being able to get a video to sync up with that voice audio. So it is an incredible world, because you think about everything from celebrities being brought back to life to create movies to, the replacement, in inverted commas. I suppose that's where a lot of the fear is of, well, if I can just get this virtual team to do all this stuff for me, how long is it before the humans find it very hard to distinguish between human and machine? And some people will say, oh, look, we'll always know, and you always need a human in the loop. But I think a lot of this is going to potentially be automated. And I suppose that's what's keeping you up at night as you try to figure out what this landscape looks like in a B2B world.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fantastic.
But there is, I think what we're also going to see very, very shortly is the rise of the Uber influencers. So think about Gary Vee speaking Chinese in Gary Vee's voice, the right language, the right everything, and speaking Spanish, all those things. So everything that Gary Vee does, or everything that Ariel Levin does, if I become an influencer all of a sudden, then it can be translated into whatever language, perfect, matches the local lingo and everything, including cursing, which is Gary Vee is infamous for. These people are going to make a lot more money than they're making right now, because there's not going to be any limits for what they can do. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an excellent point. I suppose it does make that sort of global connection a lot easier, because it converts it within seconds or minutes. It can convert the whole thing. And for somebody listening or watching in their mother tongue or native language, it's a much better experience. And right now it's done through, or up to this point, it's been done through things like subtitling or, voice dubbing.
Yeah.
Whereas when AI gets involved, it is Gary's accent and, and the nuances in the way he speaks, or whether that's cursing or not. But it can be translated into many languages, and subject to the quality of the language translation, I suppose it will be pretty good, but get better over time, as these things seem to do.
Well, I'm not a native speaker, as you can tell, and so are some of my clients. But I'm seeing, like, over just this weekend, I did something. My client recorded a short video, which we needed subtitles for. I dropped it into vid.io, and the subtitles were perfect, and it was free. And also for me, like doing Zoom calls or even using, what did I use? StreamYard, and it gave very accurate subtitles, even though that I'm not a native speaker. So yeah, it's very, there's a lot of fear out there, but also there's a lot of opportunity, because there's good messages that can be now broadcasted a lot easier, or soon to be broadcasted easier.
So look, before we move off this fascinating AI topic, tell me a little bit about the communities, because you mentioned them briefly, but I just want to get into that a little bit more, because since the posts and the documents that you've shared have gone international very quickly, and millions and millions of people are looking at them now and sharing them, but you've got this sort of online community now that you've built. More people are added to your newsletter. So what are the kind of things that you're doing there, or that you're planning to do there with those communities?
So we're trying to get people to talk to each other. We hear a lot about new technologies, so it's also good for us to absorb and learn new things. So it's really about getting people to talk, providing some value. So we have some resources that we've collected from around the net, and our own resources that we share over there. And also for those who want a more in-depth one-on-one process or one-to-many process, then we offer that. But it's pretty open stage, as long as people don't try to, be nasty to each other or take people to other communities. We're good with that, and it's just nice to have people there, because it's just like having a mega brain, especially with the active community. So everybody's out there sharing amazing content, and it's just like a big happy family that everybody's very excited about what you do, which is just I'm not sure what the right term it's just wind in my sails, I guess. Yeah, constant wind.
That's a great way of putting it. Yeah, it certainly is the the wind in, it certainly is a great way of putting it. The wind in the sails is very much what's happening there. And I think because it's developing too, the conversations they're red hot right now. You know, people are learning and you're having to learn. This isn't something you can just try today and then think you'll be able to keep up with in 3 weeks' time, because it is evolving
Yes.
very quickly. Well, look, thank you for your views on that. It's great to hear from somebody who's, you know, really has taken a deep dive into this topic and have shared some great useful information around the world. But I wanted to ask you a little bit about your own learning style now. So when you're not putting out these great learning tools for people around things like ChatGPT, how do you like to learn yourself, Ariel? Do you read books? Do you scour the internet? Do you like listening to podcasts? Do you like audio books? And is there any particular genre or author, or is it all business? Is it all technology? How does that work for you?
Yeah, pretty much all of the above. So I listen to podcasts. I listen to usually a few audiobooks. I have Audible, so I always have a credit or two available. So I have 5 different things. I mean, I listen to Yuval Noah Harari when I go to bed, because of the narrator there is very proper and it puts me to sleep. And I listen to Undistractable. If I need to understand something, I'd usually buy training one-on-one. And I would say that I'm good at maybe 2 or 3 things, but I'm pretty average at a lot of things. So I always I always weigh, should I learn this? Should I go deep into this or no? So with ChatGPT, I know it's a yes, but for everything else, for example, low code, automation in my business, everything, all the other things, I have my assistant who deals with it and learns that. And we also hire people who know things better than us. So I would say, I'm very discerning about what I decide to learn, because I'm excited about everything. I want to know SEO, and I want to know WordPress, and I want to know better copywriting and everything, but it's not the best use of my time. The best use of my time is focusing on one subject, maybe 2 subjects, and just attracting the best people around me to do things. And also lots of trial and error. So with ChatGPT, reading something, putting it into practice, playing with it, creating the presentations, creating the carousels. So I would go into the chats repository. So everyone, you can go to www.prompts.chat. There's all the prompts over there, or FlowGPT as well, flowgpt.com, I think. There's great prompts over there. And I would play with them, I would use them, and I would play with them, and I would use them, and then I would get better at it. So that's the best kind of learning, I think, for me.
Well, thank you for sharing a little bit about your learning style there. It's great to see how people use the various tools and technologies available to us. Now, on your journey so far, whether it's back to your childhood, the property days, the B2B agency that you have, or the very latest in AI, you must have received some good advice along the way. So when you think about advice that you've received in your life, Ariel, is there any advice that stuck with you that you think is really important, or do you find yourself sharing a particular piece of advice with people that you think is important?
I guess my recent success with the post is something that I can use to give advice also to myself, and I remind myself, you're always, a moment away from breaking through, from success, and there is a blueprint. People like Justin Welsh, who publishes the blueprint, and just using that and following that is going to help you. So remember that. Don't think There's me, the little me, and there's them. Justin Welsh, he's amazing. I'm just using him as an example because he's probably the number one influencer on LinkedIn at the moment. No, we've all we can be average and use an excellent system and break through and have success. And so if I would have to distill it, believe in yourself. And as my first mentor who brought me into real estate told me, he told me, you can do it. So we just need to believe in ourselves.
I like that a lot, Ariel. Thanks.
I mean, it's very corny, but I've seen it happen in action. So, if it happened to me, age 46, it can happen to everyone. Just follow. I mean, there's guidelines. There's good people there teaching things. Follow the advice. Do it. Show up every day, and things will happen.
Yeah, I think showing up every day, being consistent, work at it, and learning from others, that's great advice.
And one more thing,
yeah,
there's a guy who has a very good health and fitness program here in Israel, and he said somebody asked him for advice, and his advice was to work on ourselves. I think that's the key thing, because we can still have some internal barriers to success. So that's something that everybody needs to address and work on and be conscious of. So 90% work on you, 10% work on everything else, and things are going to work out for you. Yeah.
I like that a lot. The other thing I want to ask you is, as well as advice, there must have been people that you admire in your life, people that have inspired you or motivated you. And you've mentioned a few, Justin Welsh or the Gary Vaynerchuks of the world. But when I ask you that question, who's inspired you the most, or who has motivated you, or who do you admire? Maybe it's just a character trait, but who springs to mind for you?
I guess the main person is the person who pushed me to do real estate. So that was the right moment, where, like, when I left Israel, I didn't have education. Then I had some education, and I was going through the education route. But then somebody said, no, you can hack your way through. And that year I made 3 times as much as I would have earned doing advertising. And it's been growing ever since. So he's been pretty amazing. He helped me a lot. He helped me think. I don't think I was ready enough for all his learning at the time, because sometimes things take time. But yeah, his name is Jason Trowbridge. He's a New Zealand guy. Yeah,
that's great. And I suppose as we record this, you're very busy. You said you're working weekends. It seems to be you're very busy at the moment, and you're learning constantly, and you're sharing things constantly. But when you look at the next, say, 6 to 12 months, what are you hoping to achieve, whether that's with your business or your personal life? What does the plan look like for you? And what are you hoping to achieve over the next 6 to 12 months, Ariel?
I guess in my personal life is better clarity. We moved to an apartment, and I'm not sure that this is the lifestyle that I want. So maybe moving to more to the countryside is something that I need to discuss with my wife. Or we can go traveling next year. That's another option. So clarity around that. In business, it's very clear. We want to gather more clients, so double the clients that we have right now. We want to automate everything that we have. And we want to delight clients. So that means for us, first of all, creating amazing results for them, and also having ready-made dashboards. So we're currently working with a process expert to work on that. And I guess on the aspirational side is to do more work with ChatGPT, to just do more training on ChatGPT. Is something that I'm excited about, something that I can share my excitement about, something that I'm recognized for. So these are the things that I'd love to do, and get fitter would be nice as well. Yeah, something that sort of falls by the wayside.
Yeah, that sounds like a very interesting 6 to 12 months ahead, Ariel.
Yeah.
And look, before we wrap up today, is there anything else that I haven't mentioned that you'd like to share with our audience, or anything else that you'd like to bring to our attention? And also, if people want to reach out and get in touch with you, where are you sending people to? Where's the best place for them to connect and reach out?
Sure. So the best place at the moment, the easiest to find is Ariel Levin, Ariel Levin, on LinkedIn. So if you send me, first of all, you can send me a message. I've got open profile, which means everybody and anybody can send me a message without connecting with me. So I will reply to you. Just mention Simon, and I will reply to you. The other thing is, if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, send me a personalized connection request, because I currently have a few hundreds connection requests. And even if you just send me a connection request, heard you on Simon's podcast, that's going to be enough. I'm going to connect with you over there. And that also has my calendar link and everything else on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn has my calendar link. So if you want to chat with me further, that's over there. We're currently working on a website. Maybe it's going to be ready by the time this is going to be published. It's sdrlabs.io. So there's going to be some information over there. But LinkedIn is where I'm most active, really. Yeah. And Twitter as well. I've just seen some pretty successful guys on Twitter. So this is something that I might develop, which is my Twitter handle is ARLLVN. Yeah.
Well, a little bit of Twitter, definitely LinkedIn would be a great place to find everything that Ariel's doing. And the new website, what's the domain for the new website again?
sdrlabs.io.
Thanks very much. Well, look, that brings us nicely to the end of this discussion with Ariel Levin. So thanks to Ariel for spending some time with me today here on the Global Discussion. Thank you to all our listeners and people watching around the world. I certainly appreciate you coming here today to listen to this new episode. And make sure that you like, follow, subscribe, do all the things that I need you to do to help support the podcast. And I hope you'll join me back here for more discussions with creatives, leaders, and thinkers. So thank you, Ariel. It's been great to catch up with you, my friend.
Thank you, Simon. It's been amazing.